Hey everyone, I'm here at the house in Antigua. I just got back from Vuelta Grande just a little while ago. I'm excited to share with you some of the stuff I saw and learned and the experiences that I had while I was there this last weekend. I have to say it's probably been by far one of my very favorite things that I've done this semester. I'm also going to talk just a little bit about one of the former presidents of Guatemala. Now, Vuelta Grande is such an awesome little village. It has about 1,300 people that live there, and I got to be part of that village for the last couple of days. Many years ago, there was a group of Germans who actually owned the land that is now Vuelta Grande. The people who lived and worked on it were hired by the Germans to work on the land, but they didn't actually own the land itself. Now, when the war threatened and the Germans were going to have to leave, instead of just deserting their land, they sold it to the Mayan families that were living there. Therefore, these Mayan families came to own the land that they had been working on and living on for a long time. But these people came from many different villages, so they spoke different Mayan tongues and wore different Mayan traditional clothing. As a result, when they came to own their own land and form their own village, instead of trying to resort to one Mayan tongue, they all just went to speaking Spanish. And their typical dress is just a mix of the designs that they brought back from their hometowns. Don Miguel, the father of the household where I was at, speaks a little bit of Cachiquel that he learned when he was a child, but the vast majority of people in Vuelta Grande don't speak anything other than a simplified version of Spanish. But at least that made it easy for me to communicate with the people, especially the kids who wouldn't have already been learning a language in school. This is the first time that a group of Gringos has come and lived in Vuelta Grande. And so my friend Adrian and I, living in one of the houses, quickly became a spectacle for a number of children especially, but a lot of the neighborhood people came out just to stare and look at us. Pretty quickly though, we made some friends and the kids warmed up to us. We went and played soccer or threw around the ball in the courtyard area, and the little girls just like to sit and ask questions, talk about things that little girls like to talk about. My roommate Adrian and I live with a family. It is a husband and wife and that are grandparents, as well as a number of their grandchildren and distant cousins we all met. Now this man, Don Miguel, works as a farmer, which is pretty typical in Vuelta Grande, but he also works as the town medical assistant. Overall, I really loved Vuelta Grande. I'm excited to be going back, and Adrian and I have already talked about taking one afternoon in a couple of weeks and just going to visit with our family again one more time before we head back to the United States. General Justo Rufino Barrios was the president of Guatemala from the years 1873 to 1885. He is the first president to be buried in what is the current cemetery in Guatemala City. Now, he was kind of a crazy president. He had this grand idea of conquering all of Central America and being the head president of all of that. Part of the way he decided he was going to accomplish this was that he needed the help of a foreign company to build railroads to move his equipment across the continent. So he hired in what back then was known as the United Fruit Company. What he did was he established a contract saying if you build these railroads, you have access to a huge chunk of land in Guatemala forever. Like, he didn't put an end date to how long the United Fruit Company would be able to hold on to these lands. I think the reason he did this is he was believing that when he finally conquered all of Central America, he would just be able to kick the United Fruit Company out and it wouldn't be a problem. Unfortunately, there were some people who kind of realized that Justo Rufino Barrios was kind of a crazy president. So at one point when he was fighting just over the border of Guatemala in San Salvador, he was assassinated. And there's kind of some conspiracy whether or not it was some people from San Salvador who assassinated him or whether it was a military official from Guatemala. Nevertheless, he was assassinated in a chapel and then his body was brought back to be buried. Now, the railroads that were constructed by the United Fruit Company are called Puerto Barrios. Barrios because that's the last name of the president, and Puerto meaning door because it kind of opened a door from the west side of this country and to the east side, and then also from the north to the south. It just opened up a whole mode of travel and communication and transportation that was never there before. So the word for this week is actually a phrase that one of my Guatemalan friends said to me recently. It's "La plancha no es permite," which translates as "the plancha is not permittable." So what exactly is the plancha? I actually did quite a bit of digging and talking to my teacher trying to figure out what this word actually means, because literally if you look it up in a dictionary it means a flat iron, like to iron clothes. But it also can mean a gangplank for a pirate ship, and upon talking with my teacher, it can also mean the timed, game of soccer when someone does a foul that's not really a foul, but like maybe knocks somebody else over. So the way my friend described it to me is that a plancha is just basically something bad that you do on accident, sort of. So if you make a promise and you forget a promise, or you say you're going to be here at 10 and you don't get in until 10:45. So it's kind of an accident, kind of avoidable at the same time, and it's just considered kind of like a bad thing, plancha. As far as I know, Guatemala is the only place that uses the word plancha in this context, and not even all of the people I talked to understood that context at all. But one of the ways you can say goodbye to someone, like take care, is saying "La plancha no es permite." La plancha is not permittable. So that's it for now. This next weekend we are going to take our final trip with the group from the university. We're going back to Guatemala City and we're going to visit the FAFG, Forensic Anthropological Foundation of Guatemala. Basically, it's this organization that's funded from multiple other governments and NGOs. And this organization digs up the bones of the victims from the Civil War here in Guatemala. Then they identify them, excavate them, use DNA sampling, and help to put the bones back into the hands of the surviving family members for proper burials and things like that. They also do interviews with some of the people that are the survivors that are there and learn more about what actually happened during the Civil War and who is responsible, especially as they go around trying to find who to put the blame on for all of the horrible things that happened during the Civil War here in Guatemala. Anyways, you guys have a fabulous weekend and week. I'll talk to you later.